My sister and I are twins, but our personalities are completely opposite. My sister is gentle, elegant, and highly educated, the epitome of a noble lady from a wealthy family. I, on the other hand, am rebellious, bold, and love seeking thrills, which gives my parents headaches. In our previous life, my sister married the heir to $1 billion fortune. I, on the other hand, married an uneducated nouveau riche through a prearranged childhood marriage. However, my sister, who seemed to have a perfect marriage, developed depression after getting married and chose to take her own life. The nouveau riche and I also grew to despise each other, and our life together was chaotic and tumultuous. After learning of my sister's suicide, I rushed to the hospital by car but ended up in a car accident. When I opened my eyes again, my sister and I had both been reborn on the eve of our weddings. After exchanging a glance, I said to my sister, "How about we swap?" My sister nodded firmly. Swap? It said that there's a mysterious telepathic connection between twins. That's how it is with my sister and me. The moment my sister took her own life, my heart suddenly ached, and a wave of despair and loneliness washed over me, and in less than 5 minutes, I received a call from my parents. My sister was really in trouble. She attempted suicide by cutting her wrist in the bathroom due to depression. Upon hearing the news, I rushed to the garage with a pale face and sped all the way to the hospital, but I got into a car accident on the Cross River Bridge, and the car was knocked off the guardrail, plunging into the river. However, when I opened my eyes again, my sister was standing right in front of me, perfectly fine. At this moment, Dad was saying excitedly, "I never expected the Fu family would choose to form a marriage alliance with our family. Willa, you've really made me proud." Mom also chimed in excitedly, with a playful scolding tone. "Now do you see the benefits of letting Willa study more?" Mrs. Fu said she chose Willa as her daughter-in-law precisely because she's well-educated, sensible, and highly educated, ensuring good genes for the next generation. Otherwise, such a great opportunity would never have come to our family. Dad sheepishly rubbed his nose and said, "I was just worried she might become too bookish." Then, Mom continued, "But now that Willa's marriage is settled, the engagement with the Zheng family will have to fall to Wanshi." After saying that, both of them turned to look at me. At this moment, my mother said gently, "Wanshi, although the Zheng family may not compare to the Fu family, they still have a fortune of billions. This marriage was arranged while you were still in the womb, and it cannot be taken back. Please don't think your father and I are being unfair." Hearing my mother's words, I was about to nod in agreement, but my sister suddenly turned pale and shook her head desperately. "No, I don't want to marry him." Seeing this, my heart skipped a beat. Unlike me, my sister has a strong sense of family and responsibility. In her previous life, when she learned that the Fu family had chosen her as their daughter-in-law, she agreed without hesitation. But this time, she refused. I instantly had a guess. Unless, like me, my sister has also been reborn. Thinking of this, I quickly said to my parents, "Sister has never met him before, so it's normal for her to have trouble accepting it right away. Mom and Dad, I'll talk to her properly." With that, I quickly took my sister's hand and led her upstairs. After locking the door securely, I immediately grasped my sister's hand and asked excitedly, "Sister, have you been reborn too?" My sister's eyes widened upon hearing my words. "Sis, you too?" I nodded heavily. Then, gritting my teeth, I asked my sister, "Sis, did that West Fu abuse you or cheat on you? Otherwise, why would you try to kill yourself for no reason?" Given my sister's temperament, even if she suffered hardships and grievances at the Fu family's house, she would endure it for the sake of our family. The Fu family claims she committed suicide due to depression, but my sister, before she got married, was clearly a gentle and sensible girl. Where did this depression come from? It must be that West Fu treated her poorly, which led to her depression. But to my surprise, my sister shook her head with a somber expression at that moment. None of that. I just felt that life wasn't very meaningful, so I lost my will to live for a moment. I widened my eyes in an instant. "How is that possible?" My sister let out a bitter laugh. "It's true. West Fu is a workaholic. Out of 365 days a year, he spends 360 of them busy with work outside. I'm not afraid to tell you this, even on our wedding night. He spent it at the company. We've been married for 3 years and have never shared a bed." Mrs. Fu has been pressuring us to have children, so I had to swallow my pride and go to him, but he didn't even look at me and rushed off to a meeting. At this point, my sister's tears began to fall. I always thought I was quite outstanding, but in front of West Fu, my self-confidence was truly shattered into pieces. Hearing this, I couldn't help but clench my fists until they cracked. To abandon a wife as beautiful as you, always busy with work and never coming home, I'd say 9 times out of 10, this West Fu is gay. Marrying you was just to hide his sexual orientation, I said bitterly. My sister shook her head at this moment. That's not the case. He has never been stingy with me materially. Every time he goes on a business trip, he brings me very expensive gifts. On our wedding anniversary and my birthday every year, he transfers me at least $1 billion in pocket money. At this point, my sister lowered her head and choked up, saying, I know you might all think I'm ungrateful for saying this. He's been so generous to me, so what more could I possibly ask for? I immediately hugged her, my heart aching for her. Sis, I totally get it. You're not marrying him for his money. You just want someone who truly understands you, an allowance of at least $2 billion a year. Who wouldn't be green with envy after finding out, if this were posted online? Plenty of people would probably criticize you for wanting too much. So what if your husband doesn't come home? What's wrong with my husband not touching me? A life with money, free time, and no need to deal with a husband is simply heavenly. Apart from my husband not loving me, there are practically no other flaws. However, my sister is different from me. Since childhood, she has been someone with strong emotional needs and values her family deeply, for the happiness of her family. She could silently give up the things she truly liked, if we weren't twin sisters, and I couldn't sometimes sense a hint of her true emotions. I might have been fooled by her too, so no matter how generous West Fu was to her materially, it couldn't make her happy. What my sister needed to be filled was never material desires, but emotional needs. Of course, I don't believe that my sister would become depressed over someone like West Fu. According to what she said, she didn't have much contact with West Fu, so how could she become depressed over a man she barely interacted with? Squinting my eyes, I looked at my sister and asked, does West Fu's mother often pressure you about having children? My sister's face turned pale. Then, with reddened eyes, she nodded. Seeing this, what else was there for me to not understand? West Fu was often away from home, so the person his sister spent the most time with was naturally his mother, Mrs. Fu. I heard that West Fu also has a younger sister, who is somewhat spoiled. Now it seems, my sister's depression in her past life must have been related to them. Thinking again of the nouveau riche Zheng Chao, whom I was arranged to marry in my previous life, who constantly complained that I was like a shrew, lacking the gentleness and elegance of a wealthy heiress, my eyes lit up. Sister, how about we swap? Although Zheng Chao had a bit of a temper, was a bit rough around the edges, and looked somewhat intimidating, no matter how fiercely we argued in my past life, he never laid a hand on me. At most, he would leave behind a word like shrew before slamming the door and storming out. After marriage, he repeatedly said that it was precisely because he lacked education that he wanted to marry a well-bred, cultured daughter of a wealthy family. He had assumed that I, as a daughter of a wealthy family, would surely be elegant and well-mannered, but he never expected that I would be even more playful than him. A man, according to Zheng Chao's words, his sister perfectly fits his requirements. As for the Fu family, in my past life, they caused my sister to die of depression. If I don't stir up enough trouble to make their household restless, I'd be unworthy of my title as the chaos-bringing she-devil. And upon hearing my words, my sister nodded without hesitation. Change it. After the marriage was settled, the Fu family quickly and sincerely sent over a dowry of $2 billion, along with a pile of property deeds for cars and houses. Just like in the previous life, my parents didn't keep these things. Instead, they offered a 10% stake in the Lin family company as a dowry, fearing that my sister would be looked down upon after entering the Fu family. And later, when it came to selecting the wedding dress and finalizing the wedding arrangements, West Fu, the groom-to-be, was absent the entire time. When Mrs. Fu met my sister, she only said that West Fu was too busy and asked for her understanding. West Fu's sister even said with a haughty tone, "My brother manages such a large company and is usually very busy. How could he have time to deal with such trivial matters?" I sneered inwardly. if marriage is considered a trivial matter. How many truly significant events are there in a person's life? But it's just as well that West Fu isn't coming. What if he comes over now and notices the difference between my sister and me? How will we switch places then? Once the marriage certificate is issued, I'll show you what a virtuous wife and loving mother really means. After being busy for more than half a month, the wedding was finally on the agenda. The day before the wedding, my brother-in-law, West Fu, whom I had only met a few times in my previous life, finally showed up with a stack of prenuptial agreements and took half an hour out of his schedule to go with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate. He barely said a word the entire time, keeping his head down to read documents while his lawyer handled everything else. After we received the marriage certificate, he looked at me indifferently and said, "I have work to attend to at the company. The driver will take you home." Without waiting for my response, he turned and headed toward the Bentley parked nearby. Seeing this, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. No wonder my sister said he shattered her confidence. Who could bear being repeatedly ignored by their own husband as if they were heir? However, I didn't make a scene with West Fu. Instead, holding the red booklet, I blew him a kiss. Then, in a deliberately sweet and coquettish voice, I said, "Got it, hubby, love you." West Fu's footsteps came to an abrupt halt. His several secretaries stumbled, nearly falling. I blinked innocently, then walked toward the motorcycle parked nearby. After starting the motorcycle, I deliberately circled around West Fu and his group in a roguish manner before stopping in front of him and waving, "Goodbye, hubby." With that, he accelerated and sped away under West Fu's gaze. As for what his reaction would be, who cares? I'm not like my sister, who would compromise herself for the sake of others' feelings. Whoever makes me unhappy, then no one should expect to be happy either. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I took the bride price from the Fu family and went on a shopping spree. I love racing, but unfortunately, my family doesn't allow me to engage in such dangerous activities and has always restricted my pocket money, so I couldn't afford those cool racing cars that cost tens of millions. But now, the problem no longer exists. Taking out the black card given by the Fu family, I directly swiped for a Ferrari race car worth $30 million. Then, I swiped for a $50 million Bugatti Veyron and a $20 million Lamborghini. After swiping for 5 classic race cars in a row for myself, I had to arrange for the family as well, so I gifted my sister another Maserati and bought my dad the Bentley he couldn't bring himself to splurge on. Oh, by the way, my mom's birthday is next month. Shouldn't we plan a birthday gift for her? A full set of emeralds worth over $100 million. Buy it. A top-tier mattress worth tens of millions. Buy it. So, in just one short day, I spent $1 billion outright, and the news of my extravagant spending of hundreds of millions quickly spread through high society. In a single day, I gained another title, the prodigal heiress. That very day, I received a call from Mrs. Fu. "Willa, I heard you bought a lot of racing cars today. We already have plenty of luxury cars at home. You can drive whichever one you want. There's really no need to buy more cars." Mrs. Fu's tone was somewhat cold. Before I could even speak, West Fu's younger sister, Fu Beixing, was already shouting furiously, "Willa Lin, how can you be so shameless? You haven't even married into the family yet, and you're already spending so much of our money. I never expected you to be such a gold-digging bitch." Hearing their words, I feigned surprise and said, "But since the betrothal gift was given to me, shouldn't I be free to use it as I please? Besides, I'm spending the money my husband gave me, not yours. Why are you so eager to question me? Or is it that West Fu sent you to criticize me? If that's the case, then I really have to look down on him. If he can't afford the bride price, he shouldn't have married me in the first place. He gave me the bride price, I spent it, and now he's complaining about me spending it recklessly. The Fu family has a fortune of hundreds of billions, and I only spent $1 billion, yet you're scolding me like this. I think it's better to just call off the wedding. Tomorrow, I'll divorce West Fu." On the other end of the phone, Fu Beixing was absolutely furious after hearing what I said. "Willa Lin, you shameless bitch. How dare you spend my brother's money recklessly and then turn around and blame him?" Hearing Fu Beixing's words, I let out a cold laugh and hung up the phone directly. I then immediately dialed West Fu's private number to tattle on him. After a short while, the call connected. I directly clicked to play the recording of Mrs. Fu and Fu Beixing. After the playback ended, I coldly said to West Fu, the betrothal gifts your family gave me, are they just for show? Will I have to return them after we get married? Or is it that the money from your Fu family is only for me to keep in the bank, not to spend? After I confronted him, West Fu paused for a moment before saying, I will talk to my mother and sister, the money given to you is yours. You can spend it however you want. Hearing West Fu say that, I snorted coldly and said, at least you know what's right. Let me tell you, since I'm your wife now, it's only natural for you, as my husband, to spend money on me. If you dare to earn money and not spend it on me, or complain about how much I spend, we might as well break up sooner rather than later. And as for your mother and your sister, I'll let it slide this time. But if they dare to play good cop, bad cop in front of me again, I won't be polite with them. After a long pause, West Fu said in a deep voice, I understand. There won't be a next time. All right, I'm hanging up. With that, I promptly ended the call. But I was somewhat surprised. I had expected West Fu to be angry about how much I spent, but it turns out he really didn't mind. It seems that in his previous life, he really did not treat his sister poorly in material terms. I don't know what West Fu said to Mrs. Fu and Fu Beixing, but the next day, they actually came to apologize to me. Mrs. Fu looked rather uncomfortable, and Fu Beixing's face was full of reluctance, but no matter how unwilling she was, she still gritted her teeth and bowed her head to me, saying, Sister-in-law, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said those things about you yesterday, please forgive me this time. Seeing Fu Beixing's frustrated expression, I felt satisfied. Indeed, one must learn to speak up in life. It's only my sister's overly considerate nature that would make her suffer in front of this mother and daughter, tolerating them. But I won't indulge them. Out of respect for West Fu, I'll let it slide this time. If there's a next time, I won't be so easy to talk to. Mrs. Fu quickly turned to me with a smile. Beixing is still young, and she already knows she was wrong. I promise you there won't be a next time, I replied bluntly. The betrothal gift hasn't even been given yet, so it's a bit early to call yourself mom. You're a noble lady from a wealthy family and understand etiquette best. You really shouldn't do this in the future. Mrs. Fu's expression darkened. Fu Beixing immediately flared up. You and my brother are already married. What's wrong with my mom calling herself mom in front of you? I raised my chin confidently and said, as you said, your brother and I are only legally married, since we haven't held the wedding yet and I haven't formally addressed her as mom. Mrs. Fu shouldn't be calling herself my mother now. These two, mother and daughter, tormented my sister so much in the past that she ended up with depression, in this lifetime. I will never let them have it easy. Didn't they love to nitpick and emotionally manipulate my sister in their past life? This time, I'll make sure they get a taste of frustration and misery too. After the Fu mother and daughter left, my sister looked at me with some nervousness. Won't she? Won't West Fu have any objections to you doing this? I replied indifferently. If he has objections, he can keep them to himself. Even if we divorce now, I won't be at a loss. What is there to fear? West Fu is indeed very generous to his partner when it comes to material things. In the prenuptial agreement, although I didn't get any shares of the Fu family's assets, if we were to divorce, West Fu would have to compensate me with 5 billion, plus other luxury properties and jewelry, among other things. In short, even if this marriage ends in divorce, I'm the one who comes out on top. After all, I'm not like my sister, who craves a normal married life. For me, my own happiness is what matters most. But what I didn't expect was that after making that call to West Fu, this guy actually took the time to accompany me to try on wedding dresses. Seeing West Fu appear, I exaggeratedly rushed forward and threw myself into his arms. Honey, how do you have time to accompany me to try on wedding dresses today? I'm just so happy. I thought for sure West Fu would push me away. After all, he's a workaholic who isn't interested in women. Unexpectedly, he actually reached out and wrapped his arm around my waist. Then, lowering his head and speaking in a deep voice, he said to me, I happen to have some free time, so I came to keep you company. On the surface, I was pleasantly surprised, but in my heart, I cursed him out thoroughly. So, when a man says he's too busy to have time, it's all nonsense. The moment I spent that billion, didn't he immediately make time? Only when the cost is high enough does that scumbag man learn to cherish. While trying on the wedding dress, I kept deliberately flirting with West Fu. Honey, do I look good? West Fu's eyes seemed to darken slightly. After a moment, he said in a deep voice, you look good. Hey, I think so too. It's not that I'm narcissistic, but my sister and I really are quite beautiful. It's just that I have a rebellious personality, and I usually wear more of a bad girl makeup style, which makes me look a bit wild. After trying on the wedding dress, I was about to wave goodbye to West Fu, but he took the initiative and said, get in the car, I'll take you back. I couldn't help but look at him in astonishment. Aren't you supposed to be at work? West Fu, like a gentleman, opened the car door for me. I still have time to take you back. I couldn't help but curse him in my mind again, that dog of a man, but with a look of surprise on his face, he got into the car, because I know that the more time, money, and effort a man invests, the more he will care. When West Fu dropped me off at home, my sister was utterly shocked. Fortunately, West Fu left right after dropping me off at the door. After he left, my sister looked at me with a bitter smile and said, it seems he really doesn't like me, which is why he treated me so coldly. Hearing this, I quickly held my sister's hand. Sis, that just means he has no taste and isn't worthy of you. If it weren't for that, why would men be so cheap? I spent money lavishly, and he actually started to care about me. In the end, in his past life, he was just taking advantage of your kindness and honesty. If Zheng Chao dares to treat you poorly after you go to the Zheng family, you must not endure it anymore. It's not worth it to wrong yourself for the sake of others. My sister is perfect in every way, except that she's used to wronging herself and is too considerate of others. We can't let her continue like this in the future. After hesitating for a moment, my sister nodded, I'll do my best, because the Zheng family was also eager for Zheng Chao to get married. As soon as they heard about the Lin and Fu families' alliance through marriage, they quickly put the wedding on the agenda. However, the Zheng family was also worried that holding the wedding at the same time would be overshadowed by the Fu family's grandeur, so my sister and Zheng Chao's wedding was scheduled for the second month after my marriage to West Fu. In my previous life, Zheng Chao and I had met a few times before the wedding. It's just that back then, my parents were worried my usual behavior might affect the marriage arrangement between our families, so they repeatedly urged me to change my usual style of dressing. Fortunately, Zheng Chao is a straightforward guy. I just put on a little manslayer makeup, and he was so mesmerized he started stammering, even feeling too shy to talk to me. Later, every time we argued, as long as I wore the manslayer makeup the next day, he could never raise his voice at me again. He could only stomp off angrily, muttering, your personality is such a mismatch with your face, Fmage. But this time, it was the older sister who had a date with Zheng Chao. The older sister is inherently an extremely gentle woman, considered the perfect goddess in Zheng Chao's heart, so after a few dates, the older sister's face regained a bit of confidence and smiles. On Zheng Chao's side, he was even more attentive to the older sister, frequently taking the initiative to ask her out. His gaze at my sister was not only filled with admiration but also deep reverence. God knows how physically uncomfortable I felt when this rough guy looked at my sister with starry eyes. In my past life, I had never seen Zheng Chao act so infatuated, but since the person he's fawning over is my sister, I'm relieved. Although Zheng Chao may look rough around the edges, to be fair, his character is actually quite decent. Soon enough, the day of my wedding with West Fu arrived. Perhaps to put me in my place, when the MC mentioned the tradition of addressing the in-laws, Mrs. Fu meaningfully handed me a large red envelope. I smiled and reached out to take it, calling out Mom with grace and confidence, but Mrs. Fu did not respond to me. She just sat there pretending not to hear, deliberately trying to embarrass me. Seeing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Then, I snatched the microphone from the bewildered MC and said, it seems my mother-in-law is getting older and her hearing isn't as good, which is why she didn't hear me. No problem, I'll just say it again. After saying that, I shouted into the microphone at the top of my lungs, right in front of Mrs. Fu's displeased expression, Mom. Instantly, the entire wedding hall echoed with my soul-stirring cry of Mom. The guests at the scene immediately fell into a dead silence. Everyone turned their gaze toward the stage. Lady Fu's face instantly flushed with anger, trembling. She looked at West Fu and said, West, This is the fine wife you married. She spent $1 billion right after the wedding, and now she's embarrassing me in front of so many people." Hearing this, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh, glancing sideways at West Fu. If he dared to take her side even once today, I would make sure the Fu family lost all face completely. Unexpectedly, West Fu looked at Mrs. Fu calmly and said, "Mom, isn't this the daughter-in-law you personally chose for me?" Mrs. Fu didn't expect to be backstabbed by her own son and was so angry that she clutched her chest. It took her a long while to finally utter a sentence, but she wasn't like this before marriage. She had specifically chosen a gentle and easy-to-handle wealthy heiress, but who would have thought that the other person would change so drastically before and after marriage? Hearing Mrs. Fu's words, I looked at her with an innocent expression. "Mom, we weren't very familiar before marriage. So how would you know what I was like? But it's okay, from now on we're family, and you'll have plenty of opportunities to get to know what kind of person I am." Mrs. Fu immediately pointed a trembling finger at me. West Fu, however, gave me a deep look before turning to Mrs. Fu and saying, "Mom, you didn't respond to my wife just now. Does that mean you don't want her to call you Mom anymore?" I couldn't help but look at West Fu in surprise. Wow, is this guy really Mrs. Fu's biological son? He's actually taking his wife's side. Mrs. Fu was thoroughly infuriated by West Fu's words. Fine. You just got married and already you're forgetting your mother for your wife, siding with an outsider. I can't accept a daughter-in-law like this. After saying this, Mrs. Fu, supported by Fu Beixing, left the stage with a cold expression. West Fu didn't seem angry at the sight and just looked at me calmly. "Go change into your dress first. We'll be toasting later." I immediately nodded, then stood on tiptoe and gave West Fu a heavy, smiling kiss in front of everyone. "Honey, you were just bursting with boyfriend energy. So incredibly handsome. Marrying you is truly my blessing. Wait for me to come back," I said, giving West Fu a thumbs up. West Fu seemed stunned by my kiss, but I couldn't be bothered to care about his reaction. I just lifted the hem of my dress, stepped off the stage, and headed back to the dressing room with the makeup artist to change into my toast dress, walking past the front row of relatives and friends' table. I happened to hear Zheng Chao whisper to my sister, 1111, "I'm so glad I'm marrying you. Your sister's temper is way too fiery, isn't it?" West Fu really got screwed over by his mom this time, marrying a real shrew. Hearing Zheng Chao's words, I couldn't help but glare at him fiercely. That bastard. I'm not hot-tempered, so should I just wait to be bullied? Indeed, whether in my past life or this one, Zheng Chao and I just don't get along. But seeing the look of admiration and relief in his eyes when he looks at my sister, I'll endure it. Although I had a public falling out with Mrs. Fu, I wasn't so unreasonable as to cause trouble during the toast and affect West Fu's career. Moreover, the current head of the Fu family is West Fu, so no one would bring up the unpleasantness between me and Mrs. Fu in front of him, putting him in an awkward position. Therefore, the toast session went very smoothly. After seeing off the guests, I finally let out a sigh of relief. After removing my makeup, I collapsed onto the sofa in the hotel's presidential suite. But remembering what my sister said about West Fu going to work overtime even before the wedding night in his previous life, I quickly perked up again. No, if West Fu really isn't up to it, then I'm at a huge disadvantage. I don't want to be a grass widow for the rest of my life. Tonight, I must test whether West Fu is up to it or not. So when West Fu's phone suddenly rang, I immediately walked barefoot across the carpet to him. Then, I snatched the phone from his hand and turned it off. "Honey, tonight is our wedding night. No matter how important the matter is, it can't compare to us spending this intimate evening together, right?" I said directly. My slender fingers landed on West Fu's chest, then suddenly grabbed his tie. West Fu cooperated. Lowering his head toward me following the force, I saw his Adam's apple bob. Then, with a deep gaze, he looked at me and said, "My wife is right, I'll listen to you." I let out a light hum and gave him a kick, saying, "Go take a shower." West Fu raised an eyebrow slightly and then headed toward the bathroom. While West Fu was taking a shower, I opened the wardrobe and changed into the sexy battle dress my best friend had given me. If West Fu could still hold back after seeing me dressed like this, it would only mean there was something seriously wrong with him. 20 minutes later, West Fu came out. Seeing my appearance, he suddenly quickened his pace, then reached out and scooped me up, heading straight for the big bed. Looking into his dark eyes, I felt an inexplicable sense of panic. Damn, did I go too far? And indeed, that was the case. No matter how I begged for mercy, West Fu did not let me off, exhausted and on the verge of passing out. I seemed to hear West Fu's voice tinged with laughter in my ear. "Little wildcat, you're the one who started this fire." By the time I woke up the next day, it was already noon. Because of how intense things got last night, even the slightest movement made my body ache terribly. Damn, that beast West Fu. I cursed under my breath. I thought West Fu had no interest in women or was incapable, which was why he neglected my sister so much in the past life. Turns out, it wasn't like that at all. This guy, when he gets going, is practically a pile driver. Okay, no sooner had I finished speaking than a light chuckle came from beside me. "Darling, you were the one who started the fire last night." I turned around to see West Fu sitting on the leather sofa next to me, reading a document. I froze instantly on the bed, looking at him with some disbelief. "Why are you still here? Isn't this guy a workaholic? Why isn't he at work?" West Fu then stood up and strode toward me. "I just got married. I should take a few days off to spend time with my wife." "Right," West Fu said with a smile. "Are you hungry? Get up and have some breakfast first." As he spoke, West Fu reached out to help me sit up, leaning me against the headboard. I stared at him in complete confusion. Then I blurted out, "Aren't you a workaholic? You actually take time off for yourself. Is the sun rising from the west or something? Is it that strange for me to take a day off?" West Fu raised an eyebrow. I quickly nodded. "Of course, but I'm really happy you made time just to be with me. After all, a few sweet words don't cost a thing." A smile indeed appeared on West Fu's face. Then he said to me, "Don't worry, I'll come home often to keep you company from now on." "Thank you, hubby, you're so good." I smiled on the surface, but inside I was cursing. This dog of a man is nothing like what my sister said. Won't going home often interfere with me going out to find excitement? After the meal, West Fu took me back to the Fu residence. As soon as she saw me, "Mrs. Fu said sarcastically, "You still remember to come back. I thought you had long forgotten about this home and me as your mother." Before West Fu could speak, I pretended to be shy and replied, "Mother-in-law, you're overthinking it. Yesterday was Chen and my wedding night. You've been through it yourself. Isn't it normal for me to wake up late?" Hearing my words, Mrs. Fu's expression instantly changed dramatically, her face even twisting slightly for a moment. Thinking about how West Fu's father passed away early and Mrs. Fu has been the one watching him grow up all these years, I couldn't help but feel a heavy heart. Damn, could it be that Mrs. Fu feels like I'm stealing her son and is jealous of me? At this thought, I looked at West Fu with a hint of disdain. Could he possibly have an Oedipus complex too? If that's the case, I definitely can't keep this man. Fortunately, West Fu then said calmly to Mrs. Fu, "Mom, since I'm married now, it's time for me to move out. Willa and I will live in our marital home from now on." Upon hearing this, Mrs. Fu widened her eyes in disbelief. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at West Fu. "Chen, are you leaving Mom?" Seeing Mrs. Fu's expression, I suddenly felt a churning in my stomach. My malicious speculation seemed to be true. No wonder in my past life, Mrs. Fu tormented my sister to the point of depression. In her eyes, my sister was the one who stole her son away, so how could she ever truly be good to her? Thinking of this, I looked coldly at Mrs. Fu. "Mother-in-law, Chen is already 30 years old. It's not like he's a little baby who hasn't been weaned and can't survive without you, is it? Besides, our Chen and I just got married, and it's the perfect time for us to have our own space. Isn't moving out ideal?" Mrs. Fu immediately glared at me with resentment. "You shut up, Willa Lin, was it you? This vixen, who persuaded our Chen to move out? If I had known you were so good at pretending, I would never have chosen you to be my daughter-in-law in the first place." And before I could retort, West Fu had already spoken with a chillingly low tone. "Enough, Mom, Willa is my wife, even if you don't like her. Please show her some respect. Moving out was my own idea. Is it wrong for me to want to live alone with her?" Mrs. Fu quickly shook her head in panic and stepped forward to grab West Fu's hand, but West Fu nimbly dodged her. I immediately stepped forward and tightly grasped West Fu's hand, preventing Mrs. Fu from touching him. Chen, if you don't live at home, Mom will worry about you. I promise I won't make things difficult for Willa Lin anymore. Please don't move out, okay? Mrs. Fu looked at West Fu pleadingly. However, West Fu coldly refused. Mom, I've grown up, I'm not a 3-year-old child anymore. Besides, you still have my sister to keep you company. After speaking, he directly looked at the butler and told him to pack his things and send them to the wedding room. After giving the instructions, West Fu took my hand and left. Even after getting into the car, I was still in a daze. West Fu. Did he really defy his mother? At that moment, West Fu asked me, "What are you thinking about?" I instinctively replied, "I was thinking about what a filial son you are." As soon as the words left my mouth, I quickly covered it. My face was filled with embarrassment. West Fu gave me a helpless look. "All right. Lin Wanshi, stop covering your face." Hearing this, my eyes widened instantly. "What did you call me?" "I'm Willa Lin." West Fu looked at me with a light scoff. Then suddenly reached out and lifted my chin. "Do you really think I'm that easy to fool, unable to tell the difference between you and Willa Lin?" Seeing him say this, I simply stopped pretending. "When did you find out?" "The day we got our marriage certificate." I was even more surprised. "Then why didn't you expose me?" After all, the person he initially wanted to marry was my sister. Someone like West Fu, how could he not seek revenge after being deceived, as if he could read my thoughts? West Fu suddenly bit my lip hard. "You're so interesting. Why would I expose you?" I was speechless in an instant, but I also felt a sense of relief. A man of West Fu's caliber, if he truly wanted revenge, our family simply couldn't withstand it. However, it wasn't until I returned to the marital home that I realized I had let my guard down too soon. Although West Fu wouldn't do anything to my family, he could do all sorts of things to me. For 3 days straight, I spent almost all my time in bed. Where's the workaholic you promised to be? Soon, it was time for my sister and Zheng Chao's wedding. At the wedding, Zheng Chao, a rugged man standing 9 meters tall, was so emotional in front of a hall full of guests that he nearly burst into tears. 11:11. The luckiest thing in my life has been meeting you. You are my goddess, a blessing from heaven to me. How could I, Zheng Chao, be so fortunate as to marry such an elegant, gentle, and intelligent goddess? I know I am not worthy of you. But I swear to you that from now on, I will be completely devoted to you. I only ask that you never glance at another man. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would hardly believe that Zheng Chao could have such an emotional side. When he yelled and cursed at me, he looked as if he wanted to twist my head off. Didn't he? My sister also nodded heavily, her eyes red. Only my parents were sitting in the audience at that moment, clapping with expressionless faces. If they still couldn't tell that I had swapped identities with my sister by now, they would be fools. But what else could they do? They couldn't just stand up and expose us right then. After the wedding, my sister and I were called over by our parents and severely scolded. My sister looked ashamed, her head lowered with tears welling up in her eyes. I quickly held onto my father's arm. "Mom, Dad, isn't this just perfect? You saw it yourselves. Zheng Chao likes gentle girls like my sister, but me, I'm not gentle at all. Even if we got married, we'd definitely end up as a resentful couple." Mom wiped her tears and said, "But what if the Fu family finds out about this?" As soon as the words were spoken, West Fu and Zheng Chao pushed the door open and entered simultaneously. "Father-in-law, mother-in-law, I've known about the arranged marriage exchange for a long time. Don't worry, I won't hold it against anyone." West Fu firmly held my hand and stood in front of me. At that moment, I felt my heart suddenly start beating out of rhythm. It seems that ever since we got married, no matter what happens, West Fu has always chosen to stand by my side. It's over. I think I'm starting to have feelings for him. Zheng Chao, on the other hand, held his sister protectively in his arms, his face full of concern. "I don't care. I only recognize my wife and no one else." Seeing this, my parents had nothing more to say. West Fu side story. At the age of first love, I fell for a girl as free as the wind. Though she dressed like a little rebel, she would bravely stand up to protect those who were bullied. She lived freely and vibrantly, with a quirky and mischievous personality, yet she was never annoying. It was completely different from my rule-abiding, stagnant life. I admired her and yearned to be like her. But before I could find a way to secretly get close to her, my father died in a car accident. That year, I was 17, overnight. The family lost its pillar of support, my sister was still young, and my mother, overwhelmed by the grief of my father's passing, could only weep. I had no choice but to strive to hold up the sky for them. Gradually, I learned to hide my emotions and worked tirelessly like a machine, desperately earning money. As the company grew larger, my life became even more monotonous. Nothing but work, and more work, until that day, my mother earnestly advised me to get married and have children. And she mentioned that she had already found a suitable wife for me. Looking at my mother's stubborn expression, I nodded coldly in agreement. Little did I know that the wife she had chosen for me looked exactly like the girl I liked. At that moment, I felt as if all the blood in my body was flowing backward. But before I could ask, my mother had already spoken her name with satisfaction, praising her as gentle and elegant, a perfect candidate for a wife. My heart instantly turned cold. It wasn't her. I knew she had a twin sister. I also know that their personalities are completely opposite. But the thought that such a free and vibrant life shouldn't be trapped with someone as dull as me made me dismiss the fleeting desire to have her. I was too afraid that I would turn her from a pearl into a fish's eye, causing her to lose herself. What I didn't expect, however, was that on the day we registered our marriage, the person who showed up would actually be her. Even if she deliberately imitated her sister's feigned gentleness and obedience, I could tell at a glance that she wasn't Willa Lynn. At that moment, I desperately suppressed the wild joy in my heart, afraid to let anyone see my true emotions. I said to myself, West Fu, this time. She's the one who approached you, my girl. Since you chose me yourself, I won't give you a chance to regret it.